guys. I missed you guys so much. I hope you're all doing well as we're facing this weird, unprecedented situation. I think you guys are doing great getting all your assignments in. I'm so proud of you guys and so pleased. So you're going to be watching this video after you have submitted the project proposal with the annotated bibliography, which is due on April 5th. Remember that the project proposal will form the research that you need to write the next assignment, which is going to be the argument paper. Okay, so this video will go over how we're going to complete this next assignment in the research project. So really quickly, I'm just going to show you in your module here that I've been adding some information. So I keep trying to put these headers in so you guys can see where we are. So right now, we're right about here, and then we're going to get into the argument paper. Okay, so I've already uploaded several assignments for you guys to do. So on Monday, you're going to start the Spriggs assignment. It's due on the 8th. And then Wednesday, the reading and response will be due on the 13th. So I hope that's making sense for you guys. And then all the way through, I've changed the due date on the argument paper. That's going to be due May 3rd now. I'm going to be reviewing drafts very carefully, and then you'll do your final on May 3rd. So again, all of this is going to be kind of review using comments on your papers, and then I'll hold some office hours or sessions for people who have extra questions. And then the PowerPoint presentation, I changed that significantly. The new guide is up here, and the new due date is May 11th by 3 o'clock. So that is all up there for you guys to take a look at. But let's look at the argument paper, which is our next assignment, again, due May 3rd. You guys are probably pretty good at arguing, and we've been working on argument a lot. We've been looking at how arguments work and how to analyze arguments and what makes arguments effective. So being able to convince somebody who either doesn't know about a problem or knows about it but doesn't want to act on the problem or doesn't think that there's a solution for a problem, being able to convince somebody of the opposite of any of those views is really a powerful way of using rhetoric. And we saw Dr. King doing that very well in Letter from a Birmingham Jail. Think about how powerful it is to take someone's false ideas, correct them, and help them see a better way forward. If you guys could do that even to a 10th of the degree as Dr. King was able to, I think you guys will agree that you could be pretty powerful forces in society. Remember that when you're arguing, you're always trying to persuade somebody that you take for granted does not already agree with you. There's no point in trying to argue to someone who already shares the same opinion that you do. Because the point of argument, the major purpose of an argument paper is to persuading people to know something they didn't know before. That's an argument of information. To do something that they didn't think they should do or didn't know they should do. That's an argument of action. Or to believe that something that they didn't believe before. That's an argument of belief. This paper is set up as an argument of action. What do you want your reader to do, your audience to do, after they've understood the issue that you've presented to them? What solution do you want them to pick? All right, so you are using your proposal with annotated bibliography to form the basis. So that's a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 8 sources. And remember, one of those sources is going to be the CQ researcher report that you initially used to write the proposal. This is going to be about 5 pages, 1,500 words. You're using APA format again, and you're not using headings for this paper. So you're just really going to be writing essay style using APA format for a cover page and documentation and a references page. All right, so you are going to be writing an argument paper, and it's going to have very specific kinds of subtopics that you have to cover in the paper. So let's go over those. So remember, you're adopting a persuasive stance. That means your approach to your topic and audience is that you're trying to get them to see an issue from your point of view. And your point of view is going to be informed by all of those sources, all of that research that you did when you were writing your annotated bibliography. And so you're really, the persuasive stance starts out as partly informative, right? And then partly engaging, right? So in other words, you have to inform an audience to get them to care or be engaged with the topic, to have a clear reason to be able to act on your advice that you're going to give in your conclusion. Alrighty, so in the body of your paragraph of your paper, you're going to start with defining that problem very clearly, understanding who your audience is. So depending on who your audience is, they might have less or more understanding of the problem, but you also want to define that problem from your own point of view, from your own perspective. Why is that problem relevant or important to solve? You can take a look at your proposal, look at that justification paragraph that you wrote on your proposal, and look at any notes I gave you on that justification to see how you're going to kind of address the problem here, okay? So you're going to also provide relevant context to help your audience understand the problem's origin and current situation. So how long have we been dealing with this problem? Is it relatively recent, like decades old? Is this old as the hills? Is it old as the foundations of the country? You know, when did this problem kind of start really becoming a problem? And then what does it look like right now? Okay, depending on how much context you have, how old your problem is, this is 1 or 2 paragraphs. So you might think, okay, my problem is pretty old. It goes back to a kind of maybe a constitutional debate. So I'm going to have a paragraph on the problem's origins, and then the current situation might be a second paragraph. Or you might have a relatively new problem and current situation. Is it the Me Too movement? Is it plastic pollution? Maybe that only needs 1 paragraph here. So you really have to use your judgment there. All right, your next paragraph is going to look at the complexity and implications of the problem. And depending on how complex and how many implications you have, and remember, these are kind of side issues, related problems. So you might say you have that plastic pollution topic. You might say, okay, so it's not just a matter of too many plastics floating around the ocean and looking ugly, but it's also killing marine life. Or it's not just that plastics are a problem, but also that they're a solution to a lot of things. So the way we solve the plastics problem has to take into consideration that plastics are also a good thing, right? So you want to really look at that. Again, that's 1, possibly 2 paragraphs, depending on how complex your problem is. Okay, then you're going to explain the possible solutions to your problem, highlighting the pros and cons of each. This is really where you're doing what's called critique, okay? You're going to be as neutral as possible right here as you're presenting the possible solutions. Remember, you have at least 2 solutions. If you have more than 2 solutions, if you have 5 solutions that could possibly be there, I don't want you to get too bogged down here. So try really hard to narrow that down to 2 to 3 possible solutions that you think are actually really good. If you find a solution you think it's just ridiculous, don't use that solution. But if you want at least 2 here, maybe 3, 4 at the absolute outer limit, but really that's a lot, and that's going to take up a lot of your paper. So 2 to 3 is probably good right here. Really the pros and cons. What are the positive benefits? What are the possible consequences of implementing that particular solution? All right, so then you're going to write plenty of support paragraphs for your own position. Now, your own position is going to center on picking the solution here that you think is the best. So you're going to have 2 to 3 paragraphs that go back and really highlight how your solution is really the best one to your problem. And then finally, you're going to, in the body, you're going to try to counter argue and or concede and redirect an issue that they had. Remember, counter arguments was the primary way that Dr. King addressed his audience. Remember, he said, hey, you have this point of view, but it's wrong because, okay? And that's a counter argument. He also did some concessions and redirections. For example, remember when he said, it's a good point. You may well ask why direct action and not negotiation, right? Remember, he conceded that. We wanted to negotiate. You're right. That was a concession. When you concede something, you say, yes, that was a good point. But then he redirects by saying, hey, but when we tried to negotiate, they lied to us, the city fathers lied to us, and so we were left with no option but to go to plan B. So that's why our major point is still correct. Okay? More on that is available in writing argumentatively. There are more examples and explanation here. All right, concluding your paper, you want to do a call to action that's appropriate to your audience. If your audience is a group of senators, what do you want them to do? If it's a group of voters, what do you want them to do? If it's just an everyday average person, what do you want the everyday average person to do? Okay, so as you're doing that. Alrighty, so there are a couple of do's and don'ts here that I want you to look at very carefully. One of the main ones is the research summary template is not going to be useful for this paper. Do not use it. You're going to write a new introduction that opens your argument effectively and engages your specific audience. You can use the information from your annotated bibliography and proposal. You want to change it. I don't want to see more than a 30% similarity and turn it in. And then the rest of this is kind of just how you're going to write the rest of your paragraphs. So you want to read through this very carefully, annotating as you go to make sure you understand how all of this is going. Kind of how do you do this the best you can. There are a ton of new homework assignments that are going to help you build up your knowledge of how to do an argument. And then never forget that this is a tool. The rubric is a tool for you guys, especially the content and skills and the coherent and development sections are really going to be skills for you in terms of making sure you have everything that you need to have. All right, guys, I hope that's helpful. I know you guys are going to do a great job.